Three, two, one. Okay, we are live.
So
Welcome to
boom,
the
we are live.
fifth.
Fifth episode. So
Welcome
this
to
is
the
the
fifth
fifth.
episode of the UnCut Theory Podcast,
Yeah,
and we are your host, Yuvraj and Deergh.
yeah.
And on this wonderful Wednesday, which would have been Sunday
Yeah,
by the time of recording,
tech. Yeah,
technically should have been a Sunday, but on
yeah,
this beautiful Wednesday evening,
yeah.
because of our fuck ups, we are here.
Not
And
exactly. I
what
would
can I
say
say? No, it was a
like
fuck up. Just we were
yeah,
supposed to record this episode on Sunday, and delays. Some on his part, some on my part.
yeah,
Delays, and uh, this is probably the most latest episode you'll probably hear, because
yeah.
hopefully this episode will be scheduled on
Within a day.
Friday. Yeah,
Yeah,
almost a single a single day basically,
yeah,
because this day is pretty much over, and yeah, he's gonna edit. Hopefully he will be able to edit in on Thursday,
yeah,
and the episode will be live on Friday. So hope you're
yeah.
watching, and let's continue. So what topics do you have there,
I have a
or
lot of
should I
stuff to
just
be
continue?
honest.
Okay,
As you
I think you
wish.
should start.
I should start.
Okay,
Well, I have
go
a
for
bunch
it.
of topics to talk about, but like, hey, one of the things that kind of like keeps popping up in my head all the time. I don't think we ever had a conversation about this. I was just having a conversation, like, I would say 4 hours ago with a friend of mine. Uh, both of our friends, actually. He's a common person, you know him very well.
Uh,
Probably we'll bring him on this episode as well. Not this episode, like maybe in some future
on this
episodes
show,
we can, on
yeah,
this show, we can
basically,
talk about a lot of stuff, crypto stuff, Web3, Metaverse, a lot of stuff, even video games, a bunch of stuff that we have in common. We can talk about it. But the thing that I was talking about, and this is so absurd to me, that I see all the time that is happening on the internet. Like, there are people out there that are teaching a bunch of stuff, like these online self-help gurus. Not going to name anybody for the obvious reasons, who talk, I would say, a lot about spirituality, and who talk a lot about, you know, the normal self-help stuff, if you know what I'm saying. But I think talking spirituality and like just like deep down self-help with someone who is like, let's say 18, 19, probably like a teenager, or someone is in his or her 20s, I think it's a very risky proposition. It's a very tricky business to be dealing with. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, but I think it goes without saying, no teenage boy or anybody in his early 20s has anything to do about spirituality in his or her life, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most especially if you're coming from a very conservative family or very religious, and you are like kind of hate their guts, because my parents are super religious. They not my I mean, like, in a person who's lived up in a very conservative family,
Society
he
overall.
would be
Yeah.
he would be like, oh, my parents are very religious, they kind of shove religion down my throat, and they're basically gonna have a bad taste for religion, spirituality as a whole
Yeah.
throughout their life. But
Yeah.
I'm of the belief that down the line somewhere, when you
Uh-huh.
have like hopefully achieved everything in your life,
Uh-huh.
there will come a point when you are seeking more from life, and you have already
Yeah.
achieved uh, almost everything which you can, like, understandably achieve, basically realistically
Uh-huh.
achieve. Like, not everybody can be a millionaire, not everybody can be a billionaire, but obviously you can work on these goals, and the further down you go, maybe you're successful, maybe you're not, but down the
Uh-huh.
line, I think almost everybody, to some degree, rely on spirituality down the line. Not again, spirituality for someone who is extremely young, ambitious, is
Yeah.
kind of a mood, because most of the spiritual thinking focuses on being calm, being collected, and basically
Uh-huh.
inner peace, and that kind
Uh-huh.
of conflicts with most of the young people who have like thoughts of ambition, and like
Basically,
their
capitalistic
world is
desires.
constantly moving. Yeah,
Yeah.
their world is constantly changing. Like
Yeah.
take me for example. Like I was a whole different person when I was like 15 or 16, and now I am pretty much unrecognizable if you know me when I was like in my teenage years. And
For sure.
people change rapidly in these. People change rapidly. Their ideology changes rapidly. Their view on the world
Uh-huh.
changes rapidly. And I have noticed that down the line, people become more stable in that sort of context. Like their ideologies kind of uh, stay in place. They don't change so much, and overall the person like uh, doesn't dislikes change, let's just say, down the line
Uh-huh.
when you have like early 50s after your midlife crisis and stuff.
Yeah.
People do not desire change. They want stability in their life. They want to help obviously they probably have already raised a family by that point, but now
Uh-huh.
they just want to see this want their children, or like the next generation, to basically help the next generation,
Uh-huh.
I would say.
Yeah.
And I think spirituality is more vital when you are like in your old older
Yeah.
years. Like
Yeah.
uh,
In your 50s, 60s, and so on.
personally, it hasn't helped me a lot in my younger years, but I expect down the line it's gonna become a more day-to-day part of my life. And
Yeah.
like for like, even if my parents, when I look back, my parents weren't that into spirituality and stuff when I was very young, and I would notice them. Like even then, they were very like my father was like, he was very passionate about like changing, looking into jobs, working, finance, and stuff like that. Investments,
Uh-huh.
basically. Same with my
Uh-huh.
mom. My mom was constantly changing careers, and because she wasn't happy with her previous career, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, but down the line, even now, like they crave stability. They want
Uh-huh.
their life to be calm and peaceful. And I think spirituality plays a major role for them, more than
Yeah.
it will probably even ever do for me when I reach their age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So that's kind
in
of my
yeah.
thinking about spirituality.
Yeah. But the thing that you kind of like came down to as a conclusion is the fact that you said that in your later phases of life, you'll appreciate it more, like mental calmness and stuff. But the thing that
Yep.
I see, and that is so absurd, and I think that's even dangerous in some sense, is do you think teaching like 20-year-old spirituality and, mental calmness, all that kind of stuff, even helps in any sense? Like, people have
Uh,
capitalistic desires. Like, I desire for better things. But this
yeah.
idea
Like
that,
young people.
uh huh,
Yep. Yep. Young people generally tend to, because they have not achieved anything in their life. They want to see the world.
yeah,
They want have some kind of career in their hands, be it
yeah,
in anything, basically anything,
uh huh,
whatever they want. And they want
yeah,
to see, first of all, financial success. Everybody wants to
uh
see
huh,
financial success, and
yeah,
they want to develop relationships with their peers, and have basically the how should I put this, uh, the validity or of their parents, let's just say.
yeah, for
They
sure.
want praise from their parents. They want to feel proud of themselves, and they want other people to feel proud of themselves. And
Yeah,
again, everybody wants that, but I think it kind of degrades down the line when you
uh
become
huh,
older. Like you don't seek validation from everybody when you are like 80, or like in your 60s and something, like very very old,
yeah,
basically, when you have basically
yeah,
done everything you can
yeah,
possibly hope for, but realistically hope for. And I think we should not like, what I have noticed, if somebody is preaching spirituality online, I will
uh
generally
huh,
avoid them.
yeah,
But the people who genuinely think that young people should be interested in spirituality, they don't
uh
teach you
huh,
about spirituality. They teach you about the importance of spirituality. Like
yeah,
every good teacher, basically not a teacher, basically a good self help what do we call a self help enthusiast, I would say, or
Yeah.
anybody who's teaching self help. A good one would teach you the importance of spirituality. Like, do not ignore it. Keep it in your sphere of influence and stuff. Keep it in your
Uh-huh.
world, because down the line it's gonna become very important, and
Yeah.
you will regret not like delving into spirituality at an earlier age. Everybody thinks that like they should have been like religious and spiritual way back than they should have, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
so I
sure.
think people should be taught the importance of spirituality, not spirituality itself, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
and
the
if
idea.
anybody's wondering why I'm
Uh-huh.
not able to collect my thoughts, it's because like I have slept for like 5 hours today. So yeah, I'm kind of tired and drowsy. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Even I was sick because of like weather change and stuff, and everybody around me was sick. Like, I have a friend
same
group of
here.
4 people, and first one of my friends got sick like last Friday, I suppose, last to last Friday. So it lasted about, till the middle of last week. Then another one of my friends got sick. Then the third one got sick. Then came my turn, and I got sick. So it was kind of like moving in this cycle. And I don't think we had a conversation like yesterday, but yesterday I was like dead. Like, not even kidding. Like, I went to bed at like 9:55 and I woke up at like 6:30.
Yeah, for
So
anyone wondering why we kept postponing the episode, this specific episode, yeah, that's one of the
yeah,
major reasons. Yeah,
yeah. So, my health
yeah,
was kind of like on the, you can say, it was not in the best condition. Like, when me specifically, I'm making videos and doing a bunch of stuff, my health is like, I'm assuming it's like gonna remain in the quote unquote, let's say, optimal condition, but it doesn't necessarily work like that. Sometimes I have a bunch of stuff to do. It even happens with productivity. Like, I see all the time people saying on the internet and posting about the kind of work that they're putting in, but everybody should sleep without a doubt. You should not skip the sleep cycle that, people have assumed somehow that in this hustle culture and, this go, go, go mentality, people sort of like assume that working more and sleeping less is a good habit, which I don't think necessarily is a case. Everyone, and I think we have probably had this conversation too. Like, remember back in the day when we were in high school, our teachers used to tell us, you can't sleep more than 6 hours or 5 hours. I was like, bullshit, motherfuckers. That's not how it works. That's not how it
yeah.
works. It's like,
You are literally setting yourself for disaster if you're doing that, because if
yeah,
that develops into a habit, if that
uh-huh,
develops into a habit,
uh-huh,
all kinds of disease are like lying in the corner when you become old, and it's gonna
yeah,
hit you like
for
a stuff like heart diseases, blood pressure, and
yeah,
diabetes,
and
obesity, both for
and that's
oversleeping and
just
for
the starting.
undersleeping.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's just the starting. Like, it
yeah,
can
and
go
even
wrong.
Alzheimer's. Yeah,
Yeah,
even
it can go wrong like anywhere in the domains of that. I mean, it's kind of stupid in some sense. Like, I feel when I sleep 8 hours a day, it sort of like overclocks my brain in some sense. And like, it's kind of funny, and you know it's kind of funny, but I'll say it anyway. Like, I talk about productivity and stuff all the time, but what I've sort of like realized is the best productivity practice is just, sticking to a routine, going to sleep on time, sleeping for that sufficient time, 7 hours, 7.5 hours, whatever your body needs, but at least 6.5 hours. You should not go below 6.5 hours. I know everybody's body is different, but I'm like very much generalizing that statement. And number third is just make a to-do list. Like, that's it. Like, I personally talk about, productivity systems, doing this, doing that. But what I've realized sort of over these years is, like, the past 3 years specifically speaking, just do these three things. Just do them. Like, do them with, a fair bit of consistency, and your overall, you can sort of like say productivity will like go off the charts in some sense. But
yeah.
yeah,
In that regard, yeah, I had a question in that regard. Like I always wanted to ask you, but it just
yeah, yeah.
pop up in my mind, and it's a good opportunity. So
Uh-huh.
I wanted to ask, like you just mentioned that you were sick and how it affected your productivity. So
Uh-huh.
like you are deep into like the time blocking and time scheduling stuff and time
Yeah.
management.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So how do you prepare, or like how do you tackle unpredictability? Like from what I have noticed, like in time management, everything is
Uh-huh.
dependent upon everything is dependent upon you following what's gonna happen or you planning for the future.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
but for some unforeseen reasons, you are not
Uh-huh.
able to basically predict the future accurately. You become sick, you have
Yeah.
some sort of injury, and you have to like stay a
Uh-huh.
night or two in the hospital. How do you prepare for that? Not even like
I
in a like a regular basis stuff in the long run, like I'm gonna be sick because yeah, in the short run, like if you are only planning for a week, if maybe like you are going to like a vacation and you are planning for that, yeah, I think
uh-huh.
that's not gonna be your first priority. But still, somebody who's good at planning would also keep that in mind. But I
Uh-huh.
think the kind of thing that I'm mentioning is more prevalent in like day to day life for a long period of time, I would say.
Yeah.
So how do you see people who are good at time management? How do they tackle it, and how you tackle it? Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, for sure.
I've always wanted to have ask you that because you suffer from
Yeah.
these kind of things almost every day. So like,
Yeah.
how have you developed a system to tackle this?
I think there is no system. Like, I'll be honest. Like, it's just the same stuff. Like, life is chaotic, life is messy, stuff happens all the time. I was reading this book, Psychology of Money. I think it's probably like lying somewhere over there. Uh, and in chapter number 9 of that book, author Morgan Housel talks about making plans, like financial plans and stuff. And one of the things that he mentions over there is the fact that he says the most important part of a plan is the plan not going to the plan. You understand that? See, the
Yeah,
thing that all of us miss in everyday life is the fact that life is inconsistent. Like, let's say if I have my exam 1 week from now, maybe I get sick. Maybe, maybe we're recording this podcast even now. Like, anything can happen. It can be a technical fault. Electricity can go off. Touch wood, it shouldn't. And it
yeah.
hasn't
I
in the
think you're
past.
jinxing it. Yeah, you are
No,
jinxing
I'm
it.
not jinxing it. But when I'm saying, like, stuff can go wrong, things go wrong all the time. So, like, my thing and kind of like you can say, like, my spiel is stick to routines. Stick to routines, be consistent with your stuff, and stuff happens. And, like, again, coming back to that hustle culture conversation, we have kind of like developed this mentality where even if we achieve something, we kind of like torture us down thinking that in an optimal or an ideal world, we could have achieved something better or
Something
something
better.
more.
Yeah.
Like, let's say if I have 7 things to do on my to do list and I go through the day, it's like really productive. I'm not busy, I'm like really productive, like going through the stuff one after the other. I have like, as you mentioned it, and for the people, if you, in case you don't know, like time blocking means blocking certain parts of the day based on the activities that you will be sort of like allocating your time on. You're just going crazy one after the other, and you just achieve 4 or 5 things. You'll still, end of the day, look at yourself and be like, oh, maybe this day wasn't really productive at all. I could have done 7 out of 7, which is like ideal in some sense. And we always like have this habit of torturing ourselves down, and we just tell ourselves that, hey, this could have been better or that could have been better. I think
Yeah.
being consistent, number one. Number two is sort of like limiting your desires and like not over torturing yourself in a hope for, maybe in an ideal world where everything is like super optimized, you could have achieved those things, which is like, honestly speaking, it doesn't happen. Like, I have things on my to do list that I push forward and keep pushing forward. That happens all the time with me. So, yeah, don't worry about it. Stick to your routines and keep doing the stuff. And like, you just clear deadlines. It's just stuff happens.
Yeah, it's
That's what I
better
have
to
to
do
say.
like the it's better to do something rather than just not doing
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
uh
yeah, perhaps you're saying something.
yeah,
You're saying
I was
something.
saying that the problem sort of like happens in that case is when things get too chaotic. Let's say, for example, the desk that I'm sitting on. I have sort of like developed this habit that every Saturday or every Sunday, I just like take that spray, you know what I'm saying? That spray that people use to like clean stuff up, like
Oh, the
uh
sanitization spray, basically.
yeah. I just forgot the brand name. It's a very famous Indian brand name. So I just have that sitting on the right side with a cloth, a cotton cloth, and just like clean my entire desk. I have this habit. But what if
Oh,
I just
okay,
don't
okay.
clean it?
You meant cleaning supplies, Colin.
Yeah, Colin. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I just forgot that name, the brand name I'm talking about. So
Yeah,
what I
for
do,
the Americans watching, it's basically Mr. Muscle,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. So I have that sitting over there and I clean my desk on a weekly basis. But what if I don't do it for 3 weeks? Probably I'll never do it. I won't do it for the fourth week as well. And this whole place will be chaotic. Like you'll just walk into my room and you'll be like, oh, this whole place looks like a mess. There's like dust all over the place, stuff lying around. There's a pile of books that is stacked nice and clean. You can see it from this camera angle. Uh, but this whole place would be like chaotic and it will be a mess. Maybe there'll be like spider webs and a bunch of that stuff as well. But when I'm consistent with a bunch of stuff, specifically like that kind of stuff, it's much easier. Similarly with your like daily routine. For example, filming the podcast. Like I want to set my routine in a sense that we are able to film a podcast and upload it on a weekly basis. But what if we like let's say don't do it for 3 weeks, which by the way happened to us at one point.
Has
It
happened.
was
That has happened.
yeah, that actually has happened. We filmed an episode back in April 4th or April 5. Like it was the first week of April. It was a Sunday, and then my majors came in and it was just chaotic. And then we filmed like the driving license episode. That was like episode 3 or episode 4 as far as I remember. And it was like almost 2 months after that. And we had a hard time filming that episode because everything was like off the schedule. And it's like so hard getting back to schedule. My simple thing is, even for example, like in my case, I was sick yesterday. I'm still sick a little bit. I'm still recovering. So my kind of like thing in this case is it happens all the time. Like if I have 10 things to do in my to-do list, I'll probably like narrow it down to 3 and I'll just do the most important stuff and I'll do the least amount of work that I can do. Because if you can get started and you just need to hit the gas. Once you hit the gas, the car keeps on moving and then you can pace yourself up with the things and the stuff that is happening and everything kind of like goes into this flow state and you can basically crush through the things and your to-do list. Yeah. That's what I had to say.
Yeah. So coming back to our regular topics. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything special you want to talk about today?
Yeah. It's kind of a pretty old news, but have you ever heard of the game RuneScape?
I think I've heard of it. Like
Yeah,
something happened in South
it's an
America.
MMO. No. Yeah. So no, it's a pretty big game. It used to be way popular back in the days. If you look at the gameplay, it's very low poly. The old school RuneScape, it's very low poly. It's I think one of the first most popular MMORPGs, excluding World of Warcraft, because World of Warcraft was like the OG
The
in
oldest.
MMORPGs,
Yeah,
basically.
for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure even you have heard about World of Warcraft. Wow.
I've heard about
Yeah.
World of Warcraft.
Yeah, think of
People are addicted
RuneScape
to
as
that
the
game.
second. Yeah, think of RuneScape as like second best, basically. So, I'm pretty sure you have also heard about the Venezuelan economy.
Yeah, I said South America stuff.
Venezuelan
Like something
inflation.
happened in
Yeah,
South America. Yeah.
yeah. So the Venezuelan economy, I think it's still pretty bad. And back when the Venezuelan economy basically went hog wild, the inflation went through the roof. People basically lost a lot of money, and some five-head geniuses found like the absolute most gamer thing they could do to avoid bankruptcy or like basically becoming homeless. So RuneScape, like almost every big MMORPG has an economy, an inbuilt game economy, and it's like very interesting. I have researched a lot about it. I even wanted to make a video about it on my main channel, but like the research was becoming too overhead, so I like scrapped the idea. But games like Eve Online and I don't think World of Warcraft has like that kind of economy, and RuneScape and like Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is not an MMORPG, but it still has some sort of economy.
Yeah.
So like these games have like very vast and very, I would say, in-depth economies, and because they work on game logic, economists so many economists have made like economy models on MMORPGs and how they work, and how can we learn from them and apply those theories to real life.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, why crash a real economy when you can just study a crashing economy in a virtual world, basically. So
Oh,
coming
that's
back
a
to
very
topic,
interesting
yeah,
analogy.
coming back to the topic,
Uh-huh.
Rune, basically, RuneScape has its own currency, GP. I don't know the full form. Basically, gold pieces, I think, and like
Uh-huh.
this stuff goes in the millions, I would say. Like
Millions.
and but not the currency,
I mean millions
the
in in-game currency.
in-game currencies, basically. Like
Yeah, yeah.
people like I think one top most richest players probably have like billion plus in-game currency, something like that.
And what
Oh
is
no,
sort of
no,
like the
I
conversion
think
rate?
something. Let me check. But the best thing is you can trade RuneScape's GP to real
Uh-huh.
dollars.
Yeah, that's what I was
If
saying. Like, what
I
is the
just
conversion
take
rate?
a yeah, let me just take a quick Google search, RuneScape
Yeah, yeah.
GP to
You can take your
USD.
time. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I think there are dedicated websites for
So
this.
there's like a whole economy that you're saying.
Yeah,
So
there
you
is a
can
whole
convert
economy. So
the game
the price is 43 cents per million gold, basically.
43 cents per million gold. So let's say if I
Yeah,
have
let's just call it
100.
GP. I think most people call it GP. We will also call it GP.
So
Yeah.
if I have, let's say, $1 billion in that game, so that is
Not
4.3,
not a lot,
43,
not a lot, not a lot.
$430. Yeah, but
Yeah, which is
that's still a lot of money.
but
$430
if
is like,
you look at like the in-game markets, like thousands of dollars are exchanged, thousands. I'm saying millions of dollars are exchanged every day. If you look at the in-game economy, and
yeah, I
some
didn't expect it to be like that much either.
some five-head
Uh-huh.
gamer in Venezuela found a way to basically make it his living
Make
and
that his living. Okay.
make that his living. And like it's a
Okay.
very grindy game. Like it's a very grindy game.
Uh-huh.
RuneScape, extremely.
Uh-huh.
Think about it. Think about like if you're grinding any sort of game and multiply that shit by 100.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that level of grind. Like it has a lot of I would say like skills and classes, and
Uh-huh.
to like grind a single skill from 0 to 99 takes like 1,000 2,000 hours, and there are like
1,000
more
to
than a
1,000
dozen skills.
hours.
I've never played RuneScape. Yeah, there are
Oh.
more than a dozen.
Yeah,
So
I've heard about World of Warcraft, like people playing that game like a crazy person. Like you would look at them and you're like,
yeah, like
this
I've
person
had a
needs a
lot of
mental treatment here.
yeah,
Like they played
yeah.
like 30,
I
40 hours a week. That is insane. Like just on a single game, like all the
no,
fucking
I
time, it is insane.
if you look at like Twitch, one of the biggest Twitch streamers, Asmongold. Maybe you have heard of him. Like
No, I
he's a
haven't.
prominently World of Warcraft player, but he covers other MMORPGs. If you look at his builds, they are insane. Like that guy probably has like 3 4 characters that are absolutely maxed out. Absolutely in every sense, every aspect, they are maxed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
the interesting thing in that whole situation that I can probably relate to the most, and maybe the people watching as well. I've heard about game economies, I've heard about game currencies, all that stuff. Most of it from
yep.
you, some of it from news, because like once you started telling me about them, I kind of like got involved, sort of, you can say. Like I've heard about
It's a,
Genshin from you. I have
yeah.
heard
It's a
about Counter
very
Strike.
interesting thing. Like how insane
Uh-huh.
and like amazing stories like are drawn from like people spending money on games or like
Uh-huh.
making money from games
Yeah. See, the
in that sense.
sort of like the interesting thing that kind of like interests me personally is the fact that even like back in the OG days, let's call them that way, people used to spend an insane amount of money in Counter Strike. Like I remember the days where a
Even
friend of
still
mine,
they do. Like I'm
yeah,
pretty
but
sure like
it Counter Strike is not
every
that big
streamer
at the
that plays.
moment. Like back in
Yeah, I would
2015,
agree.
2016, it was massive. It was massive. Way before PUBG wasn't a thing, Fortnite wasn't a thing, and Call of Duty used to be famous. That Overwatch used to be
Overwatch
really
was
really
very
famous.
famous. Like,
Yeah, really
now it's
famous
pretty
back in
much
the
dead
day.
in the ground.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it
Now
is
it's dead
almost
in
there.
the ground.
And Halo used to be pretty famous too. Like, remember back
Halo,
in the
yeah.
days.
Halo,
So
I would say Halo was like when I was like
I'm
still.
speaking before 2016, 2017, before we owned any
Yeah,
of these
yeah,
gaming laptops and stuff.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I would say like, but Halo was pretty back. Even then, Halo was pretty. Halo was like pre 2010s. I would say.
yeah, yeah. So the thing I was saying about Counter Strike was, I remember back in the day, a friend of mine bought a skin that costed him like around 75,000 Indian rupees. And back in the day, dollar used to run around like 58, 60, as far as I remember. I'm speaking like 2013. You can like Google what was the dollar
The
to Indian
conversion rate.
currency conversion
Yeah.
rate exactly. It ran around 60 rupees. Now it's about 80. It rose by about 33, 35% now. But even back in the day, it was like 12, $1,300. And that kind of like still blows my skull off. Like even if let's say in a parallel universe, I had fuck you money. I can never tell myself
Yeah, and it's
spending
purely
12.
cosmetic. That's the best thing. It's
Yeah,
purely cosmetic.
even if you like buy me designer clothing, let's say tomorrow, it's a parallel universe, we have an insane amount of money. We just don't care about money, like that kind of money. Even if I drop $100 bill, I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna pick it up. In the moment I pick it up, I'm gonna make another $100, like that kind of money, like insane money. I'll probably like still never buy stuff like that. Like it's just stupid. Like why would I do that? You see what I'm saying? And the thing
Yeah,
that bothers me about this whole
again,
conversation, yeah, is the fact
yeah,
that
I don't get the
uh
I
huh
don't get the like the I would let's say purely cosmetic stuff. Like not even like a
uh huh
characters attached to it. Like even
uh
if you
huh
look at Fortnite and stuff, Fortnite
uh
has
huh
skins and stuff, emotes, but some
uh
of
huh.
them are related to creators, some of them are related to characters. I would say. So
Yeah, but
I can
it,
get a
uh
sense
huh
of why you wanna maybe you wanna get because I was of a firm belief why would I spend basically money on uh basically a in-game character or something like that. But
uh
then
huh.
I started playing Genshin and I was like, must control the urge.
Yeah,
Of course, I have
for
not
sure.
spent a dime on that game, but like if
Uh
I
huh.
look at the stats, that game made like $1 billion in 6 months.
That is insane. As far as gaming
And
standards are
that, it
concerned,
it
that is
wasn't it
insane.
wasn't it was basically the release from the release to the next 6 months they made $1 billion. And
For the
like the
people out
original
there,
project,
uh huh
yeah, the company formerly MiHoYo, now HoYoverse, uh, they allocated $100 million budget for the entire game, and the game's still not complete. It has like rolling update cycles, and like you get a
yeah
new region in approximately 6-7 months.
yeah
Yeah, so the game is still in development. It's halfway there,
uh huh.
and the game has already like surpassed its budget by from today I would say like three folds easily.
Three folds. That is
Not
insane.
three, not threefold, 30 folds, not threefold, 30
30
folds.
folds.
Because like it
That
made one
even
billion
three
dollars
folds
in the
is like
first.
insane.
Yeah, they made like $1 billion in the first 6 months. Now the game has been for released for like 2 years, I would say, almost 2 years. The second anniversary is just around the corner, and
Yeah.
I'm like, wow,
Uh huh.
that's an international phenomenon if I've ever
Uh
seen
huh.
one. Yeah, so
For the people out there watching, we are talking about billions of dollars here. Like you know what
billions of
us what
dollars.
yeah, you know what we are saying?
Yeah, and that's the best
So
thing I love about tech. Like making $1 billion in like any other field, I would say, like in any other
it is
business,
insane.
it
It
would
will take
be
you like three
it would be absolutely
decades.
insane. But when you are selling like stuff like games and software, basically, that can be
Uh-huh.
infinitely replicable. And I'm not talking about NFTs and that shit.
Yeah.
That shit blows my mind. I don't get it, and I probably will not invest or ever buy that shit. And
Never.
yeah,
Me
yeah,
I don't
but
think. Me
something
me neither.
meaningful
Me neither.
like selling code. Uh,
Yeah.
selling mods, game mods basically, or
Uh-huh.
any kind of like even open source. People donate a lot of money to the open source cause. If you're like supporting some sort of
Uh-huh.
creator or some sort of coder who is making open source code on GitHub or stuff like that, a lot of
Uh-huh.
people are very willing to support them on Patreon, or if they have a Kickstarter or GoFundMe, they are very willing to support. And I kind of like that stuff because again, it's infinitely replicable. I know a
Uh-huh.
creator. Again, sorry, I forgot his name. I remember his studio name.
Uh-huh.
Ludian Studios. I think he's from Canada. That guy made a game called RimWorld.
Uh-huh.
It's very niche title, very niche, but it has like already sold 100 million copies, or they have already made $100 million, and it's like a
Uh-huh.
single guy, and he's probably hired 2 or 3 developers in his company, and he has already
Yeah.
made like $100 million on a game he has been working for like some years, I would say, almost a decade.
Yeah.
The game's name is RimWorld. It's a very
That
complicated, very
that's
niche
not
game.
some years. A decade is a lot of time.
A decade is a lot, but like that guy
Yeah.
made a good ROI, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy made a
Yeah,
fortune for sure. Like
yeah, and it's
for
one
the
of the
people out there
best indie.
watching, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
one of the best, I would say, indie titles on Steam. In my like humble opinion, it's one of the best
Yeah.
indie games I've ever played.
Yeah. For the people out there watching, like if we're talking here about hundreds of millions, like even billions of dollars at the moment. But the thing that is so absurd is if you have $5 million, like if some rich dude just walks into you, maybe you're at the store, writes a check, it says $5 million. Dude, you're set for life. You don't need anything else. You don't even need to pick up your pinky finger from tomorrow on. It's like nothing. You're set for life. So $100 million is insane. And speaking in that context, you know, today we were just kind of like doing a bunch of shenanigans and just normal stuff. Like our classes were over at 11:30ish, something like that, 12 o'clock. And we had a lot of time to spare by, you can say. So we were
Mhm.
kind of like roaming around, and a friend of mine was like, his dad is probably like buying a bar in New Delhi, you know,
Rich kid
buying a
stuff.
bar.
Rich kid stuff. Yeah.
Uh, not necessarily rich kid stuff. He was saying about, we were talking about a bunch of business stuff. He has a bunch of money laying around in his house. His family does a bunch of business. They have a bunch of properties that they bought in back in the OG days, like 60 years from now, 50 years from now, when India was just independent and everything was like booming. So his grandfather bought a bunch of stuff back in the day. So they have like a bunch of shops, rental income and stuff. It's just pouring in.
Ancestral home, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So he has a bunch of money to just spare by and stuff. And he was talking to this guy who owned a bar. Like all of us heard that conversation today, even I was there. And he was talking about, how much does it cost to run a bar? And they were having this conversation, the guy was like, first of all, it takes like 25 something lakhs to buy the license to sell. I mean, you can't do this stuff illegally for sure. Then, you have to fill in your inventory. You're buying a bunch of stuff. You need to buy a place to sell. Maybe you want it in the form of a shop or maybe in the bar, where people just stand in a queue and they buy a bunch of stuff. But I was like, in case of tech, you don't need any money. And it's
Yep.
infinitely scalable. I was almost going to have this conversation, but I was like, I don't care. They were having their own conversation and stuff, and I didn't like put my ideas forward and stuff. But I was like, dude, they're probably putting in at least $250,000. Of course, they're gonna make it back, and they're gonna make it back pretty soon. And it's like a fully reliable business. Like people will always drink alcohol and stuff like that, so they'll make an insane amount of money out of that. But I was like, dude, they need to spend a lot of money into it, and of course, they have to go through a lot of paperwork and stuff. But in case of tech, you can make an insane amount of money, especially with like metaverse and stuff. This is another one of those conversations that I wanted to have. Like the in-game currencies and buying a bunch of stuff in-game. Like we were just talking about skins. So people pay more than $1,000 for buying a skin in a game. So that is first of all insane. Secondly, have you ever played GTA 5 RP? Ever? Like even touched that game?
No, but I've watched a lot of streamers play it, so
Yeah.
I have the general idea.
So yeah. So one of our friends, like he's a common friend, he was playing GTA 5 RP. You probably won't know him. Know that he was playing that game. We haven't had conversation for like a month with that guy. So he was playing GTA 5 RP, and I never played GTA 5 RP. I've only seen like GTA 5 story mode and GTA 5 online. I've only touched that part of the game. I've never touched the RP stuff. The RP stuff is crazy. It is insane. It's just so identical to real life. Like if you park your car somewhere, you get a parking ticket. You have to make
Yeah.
sure that you're driving within the speed limit. You cannot jump through signals. You cannot hit somebody. Like, people will bust your ass. Like, you just go to a hood and you're that white guy and you disrespect somebody, boom. People are gonna blow your skull off. It's just so hyper realistic. Like, you can't be racist in
Yeah.
that game. You can't just misbehave with the people. There's a cop standing by. You can't fuck around with him. And even, funny stuff relatable to the third episode of the podcast. You even need to give a driving license test. That is insane. Can you even
Okay, I
imagine?
knew that. I knew RP servers like high pixel and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like no pixel and stuff. Like they
Uh-huh.
had some sort of depth. Like they had dedicated players playing as like ambulance drivers,
Uh-huh.
emergency responders, policemen, stuff. But this, what you're telling me, is like news to me. Even
Yeah, you need to even fill in like the
I
gas
didn't know
tank
it
of your
was
car.
that deep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you need to
I
even
knew
fill
they
in
had
the
like
gas tank.
dedicated bankers,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
basically dedicated players who are playing as like bankers and like hotel staff and stuff like that. I knew that, but
Yeah.
like giving a driving license test, that's a bit much.
Yeah. Even in all of those things, he told me like randomly about like 50 different things. I only remember a few, and maybe people out there can correct me. Like, this doesn't happen in the game. I'm not that knowledgeable. Full disclosure. I've only heard it from other people. I've never played that game. GTA 5 RP, I'm talking about specifically. The one of the things that kind of like blew my mind was like, you need to even recharge your phone. Technically speaking, you can't call the other person. Like, when we are playing a game, what do? We sit on a Discord call. But what people do inside of that game is actually call one person and just like another person and then another person and have this conversation. And you need to actually pay for the phone bill, which is like insane to even think about it. You know what I'm saying? If you buy a new phone, you have to pay for it. Groceries, pay
Yeah,
for
that.
it. It is
But
insane.
I think like at that point, do I even want to play the game? That just sounds like
It
real
is
life.
insane. Yeah, insane
Like
grind,
if
but
I'm
people
playing
still
a
play
game,
it.
if I'm playing a game,
Uh-huh.
I don't need to worry about my in-game character and his phone charging. Okay, that's
Uh-huh.
just not one of my concerns. And at that point, like
Yeah.
I probably won't enjoy the game because it has become infinitely more grindable.
I think uh, coming back to that conversation, the moment they kind of like, I don't know what they will do with GTA 6. I'm myself pretty excited about GTA 6. I'm insanely excited about GTA 6, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll probably buy the game like
Straight away, I don't care
premium
how
edition,
much it
whatever it
costs.
is. Like I'll probably buy.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
I'll probably even pre-order the game. Like
Yeah, for
it's
sure,
like
for sure.
generally advise you do like if you're a modern gamer in 2022, I would generally
It's not
advise not to
advisable.
pre-order anything. Like it's not
Yeah.
advisable to order
Uh-huh.
anything, like pre-order anything, because 90% of the games that come out in these days are not complete.
Yeah.
And
Best
paying
example,
a premium
Cyberpunk.
just Cyberpunk 2077.
Best example.
That game has been
People
like
have a trauma
the
after pre-ordering that game. People had such high
yeah,
hopes with that game, and that I just don't understand.
like that game is like the laughing stock for everybody. That's the butt of the joke for like
Yeah.
every unfinished
I think
buggy game ever.
I think even after that particular incident, like Polish gaming in like Polish gaming community, you showed me a bunch of memes. I remember they've lost their respect. Like, Polish gamers were known to polish their games, but Cyberpunk has become like this joke now because it has like
Who needs to polish their game?
yeah, it
That's
was
such
like it was
praise.
it is like so over the top. Like, you look at any gaming studio and you look at the game, it's like flawless. You never find a bug. You just, what was the last time we played like a AAA title and we found a bug? Can you
Yeah,
point it
okay,
out?
okay. First of all, you are saying everything out of the left field. You don't know anything about AAA gaming. Like again,
What?
again, I would have to inform the gaming scene in India is very, I would say, mainstream stuff. If you are willing to look just under the sheet, just a little bit, this has become like an industry standard,
Uh-huh.
pushing out unfinished games. Battlefield 2042, Fallout 76, um, I would not Assassin's Creed necessarily. Assassin's Creed Unity, I would say. Assassin's Creed, the one that's in like based in French Revolution and stuff. That was very unfinished when it came out. No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is a prime example because it was like developed by indie
Unfinished in
studios and
like,
they made a lot of promises.
oh, you're
And
talking about promises. I'm talking about like bugs and stuff. Like, Of course, I'm
No,
not
that
that
game.
involved.
Okay, I think we'll probably react to this video on like the Uncut Theory show. I want
Uh-huh.
to show you the video. It's a pretty long video. It's like 50 minutes or so. It's a video by internet historian on Fallout 76. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a very big title. It's not very popular in India, but because most likely because the third game got banned. Like the main Fallout that popularized that put Fallout on the map was Fallout 3. I'm currently playing that game, but technically that game is banned in India. You wanna guess why, Deep? Take a pretty guess.
No idea.
Okay, so I think you get the general idea. Like Fallout is set in a like apocalyptic post apocalyptic scene where like the nuclear radiation has somewhat settled down, and almost everybody is mutated to some point, and the cows in that universe mutated to a two-headed cow, and they basically called it Brahmin, Brahmin, and
I'm not
that
even
was like
interested in
causes
this
for ban in India.
conversation.
Yeah, that was like causes for ban in India, and they just basically banned the game. So I think that's why it never
Just
took
for
off.
that.
But yeah, just for that. So yeah,
I don't want
technically
to
the
say
game is
anything.
banned. I think you cannot even buy it on Steam or the official Bethesda website. They are Bethesda are the developers. I think you cannot buy that game, but I sail the high seas. So yeah,
No comments. But I was saying the polished gamer memes. You showed me like a bunch of those memes. Like
yeah.
uh,
Cyberpunk memes are so funny. Like people will strap like CD disc and stuff on their body, and somebody would take a picture and put Cyberpunk 2077.
but I was talking about the fact that what were we even talking about? Yeah, we were talking about the
We were talking
metaverse
about
stuff.
unfinished games. Unfinished
Yeah,
games.
before that we were talking about the metaverse stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, when we were having the conversation about GTA 5 RP and stuff, so the thing that sort of like blows my mind away is the fact that the moment they sort of like integrated with metaverse is going to be insane. Like I'm putting so
Yeah.
much grind into the game. Imagine a time when people can make a living playing a game. Now the only people
That's just a
like
dystopia. In my view, that's just a dystopia.
for
I'm like
sure, without a
100.
doubt. But
Like
the thing,
you don't
I
want
don't think
virtual things to
it's just
affect
yeah,
virtual
yeah.
things to
We have
affect
had
real
that
world in that
conversation.
capacity. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had
We
that
have for
conversation
sure
like
had that
episode 2.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in person, like even like off the cameras, we have had that conversation probably like half a dozen times, I suppose. But the thing is, in sort of like an ideal world, people who used to dream about making a living from playing a video game can do it now. That's insane. And I'm not talking about like top Twitch streamers or top YouTube video creators or esports players. Like a normal person can also make a living out of that. And that
Yeah,
sort of like blows my
I
mind in
would
some
agree.
sense. Because imagine like you're putting so much work into a game and you can actually get something out of that. In like, I would say today's GTA 5 RP situation or anything that's like very close to reality, you cannot really get any output out of that game. You know what I'm saying? Like you cannot, sell your accounts and a bunch of that stuff. Of course,
Again,
that's
like the play to earn, like a lot of like I would say crypto games,
uh-huh.
like Axie Infinity and stuff. Like
Yeah,
these
I've heard
games have
those
a like a
conversations.
mechanic play to earn, basically play to earn mechanic, and
Uh-huh.
it's a very bad mechanic. It's
Yeah, but
very
I think
shitty.
the
It's very scammy and stuff like that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's why I don't want to see, because the one thing that I've realized is when you give
uh-huh,
corporates, basically any corporation, any sort of power in that regards, they're just gonna find the best route to their success and the player's exploitation or the consumer's exploitation, basically.
uh-huh.
Yeah, so I don't think that's like a good thing that's gonna happen. And whenever I'm gonna put this out there, whenever somebody says metaverse is the future, I cringe inside. Like I cringe and die
Yeah,
inside,
same,
because
same.
yeah, because the base concept of metaverse is people are gonna go to this place, this on virtual place, and they're gonna hang out. You know when
Yeah,
that happened? That happened when Facebook was a thing, when MySpace was a thing. Basically, the
yeah,
birth of internet, the birth of internet was basically the metaverse. Like people say VR chat is something like, but even if you think back logically, what is metaverse? What is the base reasoning of metaverse? A Skype call is basically similar to metaverse, basically.
Yeah,
So yeah, it has
you just
already happened.
yeah,
And like
same.
Mark Zuckerberg is basically just taking a new fresh coat of paint and doing like, no, it's not like social media. It's the metaverse. There's
yeah,
this mystique, this technical mystique, this futuristic aspect that he sprinkled over like his company. And
yeah,
yeah, I fucking hate it. I hate it. I hate it to the guts.
yeah, same. I would say not hated, but I'm kind of like concerned and worried about the average person who is not that educated. People think that it's going to be amazing and we'll have this and we'll have that. I'm not so sure about that, to be honest. Like it's sort of
Yeah,
like
have you
I'm
seen? Yeah,
uh-huh. I
have
think
you
it's a
seen like
pretty
the?
dystopian reality in some sense.
Yeah, no, basically, like they have released somewhere something like related to the metaverse, Facebook Meta only. They released
Uh-huh.
like the Horizons. I don't know what it's called, something like that. It's
Uh-huh.
basically VR chat, corporate VR chat, I would say.
I think it was made by Oculus or something, as far as I
Yeah,
remember.
it's like they're a sister company, basically daughter
Okay.
company to Meta. So like technically they are leading the charge into the metaverse because Oculus is owned by
Facebook.
Meta.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
now
I think
Meta, yeah.
they are leading the charge into metaverse and stuff, and they have released like an alpha project and stuff like that. Like this is the our vision of metaverse, and it's shit. It's basically shit.
I think I have watched somebody's video. I think it was Sarah Dietschy's video or somebody's video where they sort of like showed kind of like a version that they had in their head where everybody is sort of like sitting in this virtual office. Everybody has their sort of like look-alike character and they're sitting on this conference table, like this big giant
That's
conference table.
that's way ahead in the future. Way ahead in the future.
Yeah.
Like I don't know
But but
what it's called. Let me just
sort of
let me
like
just look.
think about it for a second. Do you remember the movie Resident Evil?
Yeah.
Even by a chance. Like, do you remember the Umbrella Corporation
Do
and
you
the
know? Do you
current?
know? Again. Like he's a big fan of the Resident Evil universe. Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a new Netflix show, but apparently it's very bad. They made a
Which one?
Netflix show on Resident Evil. It's a new show. It came out
I
recently,
haven't
but
even heard
it's
about it.
very bad. It's very bad.
Okay, I haven't even heard about it. But the
Yeah,
thing that I was saying
probably because
about,
it's very bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
the thing, maybe it's like really bad or maybe it never caught the hype, let's say. Since I'm unaware of that, I'll presume it to be that way. But the
Yeah.
thing,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, the thing that I
Yes,
was
you were
saying
saying. You're saying
about,
like.
yeah. The thing that I was saying about the Resident Evil stuff is the fact that you go back and look back on those movies, the oldest Resident Evil was like almost 2 decades old at this point. It was like 2004, 6, or something like that. I was a kid back in the day when Resident Evil came out. I've watched all of its parts. Even played the first video game as far as I remember. The old OG video game, the Resident Evil one. And
Yeah, the one with the fixed camera.
yeah, I played on somebody's Xbox. It was like Xbox One or 360, like back in the day. Like it was 2000, I would say 13 or 14 back in the day. A friend of his like brought a controller and I remember I used to play that game. I played like 3 times for like 2 or 3 hours every time, but I remember it pretty clearly. So the thing that I was saying about Resident Evil is, if you remember Umbrella Corporation, they just like got into a lift, went deep underground, walked into this like long pathway, had this like virtual conference table. The physical person was there. Another physical person was, another physical person was there, but they were like leaders all across the world that were sitting there, sort of like even the stuff that happens in like Marvel Avengers. They're talking to other superheroes or like other quote unquote shield agents characters, and they're all sitting there, but they're virtually sitting there. There's like a lookalike character, not a lookalike character, but it's kind of like a 3D
Hologram,
hologram
basically a
situation. Yeah,
hologram.
exactly.
Yeah.
3D hologram situation going on. It kind of like blows my mind away. They thought about stuff like that like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Have you ever heard about the guy, Isaac Asimov? Have you ever
I
heard
think
about
you
that guy?
mentioned him in like a previous episode.
No, I haven't. I haven't. To be
No, you
honest.
haven't. Yeah, I may be
Yeah,
misremembering. Yeah, continue.
yeah. This guy, for the people out there, if you heard about this guy, the people watching for the first time, just Google it. Pause the video, Google it for a second, and just read about this guy. Your skull will be blown off. I'm not even kidding. This guy back in the 20th century. Like everything, every science fiction movie that you think of, this guy came up with those concepts. He was sort of like a
So
futurist in some sense. He thought about the world is going to look like this, the world is going to look like that. We'll have robots walking, we'll have a bunch of stuff, software going on. He thought about all of this back in 60s, back in 70s, and it blows my mind. Have you ever heard about
he was basically the one who created the science fiction genre, basically.
Exactly.
So basically,
100%.
the R.R. Tolkien of science fiction.
Exactly. That's a very good way to
Yeah.
put it. So, I mean, I wanted to read the actual books that guy wrote. I think even the I, Robot movie, I think. I, Robot. Have you heard about that movie? I think he even wrote that. I think so. I may have to Google it. I can be wrong, but I'm pretty sure about that thing. We have heard about that guy, even in engineering. I think his name was mentioned like twice. The first time, my prof told me about that guy, and I just instantly Googled his stuff. And those books, original books that Isaac Asimov wrote, they're in my to-do list. You know, there's a bunch of books that I need to read, and I want to read those things. Like it's kind of insane looking at that guy's work. How can somebody back in the 60s, back in the 70s, think about that kind of stuff? Like us sitting right now, us talking. Can you think about what's going to happen in like 2050? I cannot. That guy thought about that stuff. It is insane. How can you even think about it? It kind of blows my mind away.
Beats me, man. Beats me.
Yeah. Even like, one of the things that kind of blows my mind away sometimes is the fact that, and I'd say, we brought somebody 30 years from now. We bought somebody from 1990. And all of a sudden, he sort of like teleported in 2022. He would not be able to live in this, time and era. This would be a completely different universe, a completely different reality for that person. If we have just moved so much ahead in terms of technology and stuff, like I was showing my mom videos of Tesla. David Dobrik's Tesla. Have you ever seen those videos?
Yep.
He does a lot of crazy shit. He does a lot of crazy shit back in 2016-17 when he bought Tesla Model X. By the way, for people out there watching, David Dobrik has like the most famous Tesla. I think if I never watched David Dobrik, Tesla wouldn't be my dream car. Like I just want to buy Tesla. I'm just crazy about Teslas, if you don't know me in person. So I was showing my mom Tesla. And I was like, Tesla has a specification, that specification, you can just pull up this button and, it just sort of like parallel parks by itself. There's like so much stuff. Even if there's like a nuke attack, you can press the button and it sort of like filters out all the air. And like all of these advanced mechanics. And she was like blown away. Because she didn't know all of those things. And even though I was aware and like looking back on those videos that was shot back in 2017. 2017 seems absurd now because it's like 5 years from now. But it's kind of insane. And thinking like what will happen in the next 5 to 10 years blows my mind away. Like it is almost impossible to comprehend in some sense, you can say. I have no idea how the future will look like genuinely speaking. Maybe it can be dystopian.
Again.
I don't know.
It's most likely dystopian. Like let's not kid around.
I
it's
think
most
so.
Likely dystopian.
I think same.
I wanted to mention this. I was looking into Walt Disney because like I'm a 3D animator and stuff like that. So like I regularly make checks on like who are like industry people basically. And he's like hands down the most influential person to have ever have basically in media, I would say, like the most influential person in media in general. Like he spawned Disney and like that's a big thing. But the best part about is before he died, Walt Disney had an idea to create basically a mini country. Have you seen Disney? I think it's Disney or DreamWorks. I don't remember. Tomorrowland.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Just like okay, let me just maybe a problem. Yeah, I think you're most likely seen the movie. I'll give you a bit of the summary and synopsis. Maybe if you click. You meet a girl meets like an android and she discovers the future, and basically the whole thing about Tomorrowland is is a futuristic place.
I think so.
It's a futuristic place, and they own and basically they have a robot. They have an android program by which they send androids back in time to basically invite visionaries and basically intelligent, visionary, artistic people to Tomorrowland. So basically, that's kind of their
Okay.
recruitment program. So basically, they
All
send
right.
people in the they send androids in the past. They recruit people and they bring them to the future. But the thing is, like, if you know the Tomorrowland, basically that's what Walt Disney wanted to create. So he bought a massive chunk. Like, I'm not talking about land. I'm talking about basically like a county size state, like in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
That eventually became the Disney World in Florida.
Okay.
And if you're like, if you ever visit Disney World, that place is massive. It's like an entire city on its own. But the thing is, originally, Walt Disney wanted that place to be basically a capitalist utopia. Like, everything is run
Capitalist
by a single
utopia.
government, everything is surveillance, stuff like that. And looking back, you would think it's very dystopian, but back in those days, it was like a pretty common concept because, like, the Red Scare and stuff, people hated communism, and like capitalism was
Yeah,
considered
I can
a very good
understand that.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
so basically, he wanted to create a capitalist utopia where
Capitalist
everybody works
utopia.
under a corporation, and everything is controlled by the corporation. So
Sounds like
I
the kind
think
of stuff the
something,
left would probably hate. Capitalist
yeah,
utopia.
everybody would hate. No, I'm pretty sure everybody would hate because
Yeah,
let me just
same.
continue. What happens? So
Uh-huh.
because he bought such a major chunk of land, and he basically
Uh-huh.
made a deal with the Florida state that he has right to control everything that happens in that piece of land.
Okay.
So so something happened, and he wasn't able to complete his idea of this utopia, and then he died. And but he still had like such a massive property. What to do about it? Make it Disney World. So if you ever visit Disney World, they have their own hospitals, they have their own security, they have their own police, like Disney
Yeah,
police. Think about it. They have small Mickey Mouse badges.
I've seen that.
and
It kind of
and
looks
and
funny.
and
The police
no,
has
no,
Mickey
no, no,
Mouse
no. it's
badges.
it's not funny at all. It's Everything is surveillanced. Everything, there's like a camera everywhere. But the worst part, the employees, they are contractually obligated to smile and wave at you and say hello every time they meet a tourist. Every single time.
I was not aware of that.
They are contractually obligated, and if they don't do it, they are reprimanded. And that's basically the tip of the iceberg. Everything is sanctioned, everything is controlled, from the underwears to their names. Like, they have badges, hi, I am this, but it's not their real name. It's a name given to them by Disney. They're
Yeah.
not allowed to use their real name. They cannot wear anything except what Disney gives to the underwear. Just think about it.
Uh,
And like, most of them don't even,
uh-huh.
of course, they're working at like almost a minimum wage, and uh, everything is surveillanced, and
Uh-huh.
11% of employees working in Disney World are unemployed. So basically, they have no home, and some of them sleep in like their own, like they only have a car, and when their shift shifts down and they need to like go back, they have no home. They just sleep in the cars.
Uh,
It's such a horrendous condition. Like, if that's the kind of utopia Walt Disney wanted, yeah, that's definitely like the futuristic dystopia that everybody envisions and like science fiction writers like to
yeah.
have. But it's almost real, and now things are changing, and the Florida government is trying to revoke the rights that basically Disney has over that land.
Yeah.
And even there's like, I don't even remember half of it. There is so much insane shit that the employees had to go through. And
I
I'm
mean,
like, oh, that's not a life I want for anybody, hands down.
for sure, but think about it for a second. We can say that because first of all, let's say, what if we were living in 1960s? People have seen rough stuff. People have been through real shit back in the day. Like, it's kind of absurd thinking about it. The fact that I'm going to mention it, and I'll mention it anyways. It's not even like, it's like a little more than 7, 8 centuries since we ever had those like two major world wars. Like, the world was a messed up place. Back in the 60s, back in the 70s, people actually liked that kind of stuff because people wanted stability in their lives. Like, let's be honest. We can say that that's dystopian in some sense because we see the kind of life that we are living in at the moment, and we can kind of like reflect back on the things that happened in the past with our ancestors, let's say. And now when we reflect back on those things, we can probably maybe not relate to those things, but maybe get a little bit of an rough idea to how life looked like back in the day versus what life is at the moment. And then we can say, if we move in this particular direction, it will be dystopian, or maybe not the best for everyone. But people back in the day had no idea. And
Yeah,
that's
that's the thing.
that's real stuff. That's real stuff.
Yeah,
I look at people
because like
and
back in those days, after surviving two world wars, almost
uh,
everybody in the world was basically distraught. I would say, like
yeah,
every
for
country
sure.
was had their own struggles back in those days, and like the
Yeah.
average person in any country, he
Uh-huh.
if anybody came to him and said, "Oh, I can fix things," they're just gonna follow him like sheeps.
Yeah, for sure.
And now
For
that
sure.
people have more autonomy, they are more literate, they can make choices for their own. They want what's best for them, basically.
Yeah. Even a lot of people don't know this, but like I think Hasanabi mentioned in one of his videos that you showed me off stream after the video that we watched, or it was like a little before the video that we watched. He was talking
Hmm.
about like it was like a rise of socialism or something in America that lately
Yeah,
is sort of like going on. A lot of people don't know this, but socialism was never a thing in the US. It came after the French revolutionaries and the people in France and that part of Europe migrated from Europe to the US, and they sort of
yeah,
like,
and they brought the ideas with them. They
yeah,
brought the
they
ideology
basically
with
brought
them.
the ideas. They were true. I would say they were like Marxist in their truest sense because, I mean, let's be honest, most of the left likes Karl Marx, more or
Yeah,
less, more or
more or
less.
less.
Maybe not. Maybe they'll not like agree to him 100%, but they liked his ideology. They liked the things that he said, accumulation of capital, and the kind of stuff that he spoke. Like, I have read Communist Manifesto and I've kind of like juggled with that book a little bit, but I've never read the real stuff, like Thus Capital. That book
The
actually has
real
like,
stuff.
yeah, that book has like real stuff. That book has like mathematical calculations and stuff, and what Karl Marx thought was going to happen, and a lot of that has happened. Maybe not 100%, and of course not 100%. Otherwise, he would be a god. Like, people would like follow him like a cult leader on that scale. But it's kind of absurd thinking about those things. And since we were having since
Yeah,
we had the
again, like
conversation,
when
yeah,
like people mention like communism is bad. Yeah, I would say communism, but again, they rope in Karl Marx with him because basically, technically,
that's it.
he people attribute him to basically creating communism, which is false. He just
Uh-huh,
created Marxism, which is a branch of communism. Communism existed before it. He just popularized it. And
uh-huh,
but the thing is, you cannot deny
uh-huh.
that man was like smart.
For
He was
sure,
ahead of
for
his
sure,
time. He was ahead of his time.
for sure.
Coming up with an ideology, like a political or like social ideology that works, even
Uh-huh,
works without
uh-huh.
being tested. That's a big thing. Like you are
And
basically telling a society, this is how you should run. This is how you could run.
yeah,
Again,
and
we have not had
uh,
any form of. Again, we have forms of communism that works. I would say
uh-huh,
we have forms of communism that works, but not to the scale that capitalism works. And
yeah,
like I would like to attribute it to the fact that capitalism on like somewhere on the basis relies on exploitation of others. So
Yeah,
eh, what can I say? So like again, it's not more successful in the scene of financially, because capitalism is like financial systems on steroids, basically.
yeah. You're
So
basically exploiting
yeah,
talent and
communism
like over
communism
optimizing
can work, but
everything.
like I think somebody mentioned this in like I think Matt Pat from Game Theory made a video on Star Trek, and
Uh-huh.
basically, so the thing is in Star Trek, basically they are exploring the stars.
Uh-huh.
Very bare bones explanation of what Star Trek is, and
Uh-huh.
the movies, especially the new ones, there's a very good scene in which the captain goes and grabs a drink from the bar,
Uh-huh.
from the on ship bar, and
I think I've heard
he
of
didn't
that.
pay a dime. He didn't pay a dime
Why
because
you didn't pay a
everything,
dime?
yeah, because everything was sponsored by the government. Because people don't have to pay for anything, everything is sponsored by the government. The
Uh-huh.
the government is basically everybody is a government employee, basically, and everything is covered by
Ah,
the
got it.
government.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like I don't know what kind of government like what this kind of governments is called, but like I think MatPat mentioned that was basically the plan of Adolf Hitler. Maybe
Uh-huh.
I think so. I think I should if possible, just cut bleep it this out. The guy with the mustache. Okay, I think it's just
Okay.
YouTube's gonna like community strike or everything. So just bleep this out.
I
The
don't
guy
think
with the
just name it.
mustache part.
Okay.
Again, like we are like treading on thin ice. So
Okay.
basically, I think MatPat mentioned this is what basically the guy with the mustache wanted, and like that's the kind of country he envisioned. Basically, everybody is indebted to the
Uh-huh.
government, and they cannot do anything about the government. So like he was making the speculations on what kind of government is controlling the Star Trek universe, or like the universe in Star Trek. What kind of government does that have, and what does it entail? Like what intentions can we see from how they govern, basically.
Uh-huh.
Like imagine not having paid it, but every amenity you have is being paid by the government.
Uh-huh.
I think luxury would just not exist in that kind of universe, if you ask me.
I think that kind of stuff is first of all complicated. Secondly, we
Again,
were having the
maybe,
uh-huh.
yeah, I don't remember the video entirely. I have not. So maybe down if you have like a higher rank, he was a captain. Like if he ranks up, and I don't know if there is a rank up above captain. Maybe if he
Uh-huh.
ranks up, and maybe he can afford more amenities, or if the government is willing to like giving more luxuries, some sort of like that. But yeah, so like if I told anybody like from now on you are not getting paid a salary, everything you know will be covered by the government. Some people would rejoice and say, "Wow, like finally I don't have to." But technically, you have to work. We are working for the government as uh, basically as an officer. That is the reason
Uh-huh.
why uh, they are they are paying for you basically.
Yeah.
It's not like the government is covering everything free of cost. Of course, you're working for them, and but I think,
I'm not so
what do you
sure
think,
about
Deep?
that.
If
Yeah.
any sort of government, let's just say the United States of America implements this kind of policy, from now on, nobody's getting paid a salary. Everything
Okay.
is covered by the government, but you have to still do your
Uh-huh.
job. What do you think? How will people react?
I don't think people would be so much happier about that as the left might say, or the communist, or the
Yeah, I think it
people.
kind of leans back into UBI and stuff like universal
Yeah,
income.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly. I
think
was going to
the
mention
left
the
would
same
be
stuff.
certainly, but like again, like I don't think that's 100%, because you are basically taking the autonomy, like the
Uh-huh.
purchasing power of any individual from him. That's kind of a big thing.
I'm not even sure if this is something that this is
Like
exactly
what
something
happens?
that Karl
What
Marx even
happens when the
wanted in the
government?
first place.
Yeah, what happens?
Uh-huh.
What happens when the government says, "Oh, I don't think we'll pay you," but like I don't
Oh,
think
yeah,
we'll give you
exactly.
anything. What happens then? You have
Also,
nothing.
also another thing that I don't think a lot of people talk about, because a lot of people are politically speaking, and that's the reason I never really publicly talk about politics, even on this particular podcast. Before starting it publicly, we had this conversation that we're never gonna indulge deep down into politics. Here and there, we can juggle with it a little bit, but we'll like never entitle our political opinions because people can take it to the extremes, and we don't necessarily want that. So the thing
Yeah,
that I was saying was, people often like have this conversation of the left versus right, and in the middle of all of this, people kind of like lose the details. And I think like the kind of world that we're living in, it's not the perfect, but it's, I would say, the best thing that we could have ever done in, let's say, the past 300 years of capitalism that we have had. Um, I think capitalism, of course, for the obvious reasons, needs correction. For sure, without a doubt, it needs corrections. But I think the future may have something else. Maybe like kind of like a modified version of capitalism, let's say. But
social
I don't think,
democracy.
I'm not so sure. I'm not even sure what it will be called. I think what we need is that there's a lot of people nowadays. I mean, the left talks about it all the time. The so-called socialists talk about it all the time. Income inequality and a bunch of that kind of stuff. But there are a lot of people out there who do not have anything at all. Like nothing. Nothing. Zero. Absolute zero. And the worst part about all of that is the fact that they can never even gain anything. This sounds brutal. This sounds like harsh. But most people out
No,
there.
yeah, like interjecting for a bit. I
Uh-huh.
think I was watching a YouTube video, and
Uh-huh.
that guy interviewed a person,
Uh-huh.
and not interviewed a person. He was basically roaming around in the streets of LA and something, and he saw a guy who was holding a sign that said, "I got sick and lost my home, and
Uh-huh.
now I'm on the streets."
Uh-huh.
If that's not a dystopia, I don't know what is. So, if you ask that person, like, would you like a change? Like, you want to be a part of our revolution? We're gonna change things up. He would definitely say yes.
And I think,
Like, imagine you have a normal life. One day you got
yeah,
sick. You didn't have insurance. Over. It's over.
boom. Exactly. And people get sick
Yeah.
all the time. That is so absurd. I don't understand it. Like, I think US healthcare system is just broken. I don't understand it.
It's a scam. It's a scam, man. It's absolutely a
Yeah.
scam. I could understand to
Uh-huh.
some degree, yeah, to some degree, okay, like stuff is expensive. But in a third world country, like anywhere you will look, even third world, bare
Uh-huh.
bones countries that some don't even have like basic infrastructure. They have some form of primary healthcare,
Uh-huh.
some form of primary healthcare that's exponentially cheaper than USA. Exponentially. I don't know where
Yeah.
the costs are being derived. Is it the service that's sucking up the money? Is it the administration that's sucking up the money, or it's
I
the
don't
insurance
understand.
companies? I don't
And
know. I have
because
never
of
looked
that,
into it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even an interesting fact, a lot of people don't know this, but even because of the medical healthcare prices shooting up, the price of college is also shot up. Like if you look at annual budget of any like massive college, by massive college I mean I'm talking about like national level universities in the US, they allocate a lot of budget to like medical facilities that's like there in the campus. Every 19 cents out of a dollar. It's a fact. Like you can check it up. It's like 19.2 cents to be exact, to be specific. In the last consensus that they had, 19 cents out of every dollar that's spent in the United States, it's spent on healthcare. That's how expensive healthcare is. People are spending like 1/5.
Ah,
That is insane. So, sort of coming back to the conversation, I think the conversation that we are having about like capitalism and communism.
I think like excluding like if I ever were to live in America, I'm just
Uh-huh.
telling you, like I'll just go to YouTube and like learn how to do like a botched heart surgery. I think that has like better chances of my survival than going to an American hospital.
I, even if the
Like
operation is successful,
those guys would be like, okay, you came in for a, oh, you don't have the money, take every single organ out of this guy. Like take the kidneys, take the liver, take the stomach. Like, yeah, now you can go.
I always wonder, like, what happens if you don't have the money to
Okay,
pay
just
for that
think about,
shit?
okay, let's take this concept to the extreme. a heart surgery,
Uh-huh.
like a heart attack surgery, and like you have stunts inside your chest.
Uh-huh.
I think it cost more. Like if you sell your organs, you probably get less money than having your heart. It's I think it's probably cheaper to buy a heart than having heart surgery in America.
I'm not sure about that. But
Like
I understand
if
that
you go to
analogy.
if you are very desperate for money, you go to China and you
Uh-huh.
like enter the black market and you go like, okay, I'm willing to sell one of my kidneys. I think you will probably get less money for selling your kidney than having like a dialysis like a week in
Okay.
America.
That's kind of a bit extreme, but I understand your analogy in that case. But that kind of stuff like bothers me in some sense. Like I watched
Like
s
if you look at
uh-huh.
American healthcare objectively, like compare from the world, everything is relative. Put everything in a chart and in an Excel sheet and start looking one by one.
Yeah.
Even a person, even an alien from like distant planets could sense, oh, something is fucked up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that bothers me is the fact that I was looking like, it's a trend on YouTube. Maybe we can react on our show channel as well. How much I spend in a week. You would have 100% without a doubt seen those videos. Have you?
Yep.
Like Graham Stephan reacts to
Yeah.
them all the time. I saw somebody's video. They were like living in like San Jose, California, and that I think she was a lady or it was a guy. I don't remember. Like they were in their 30s. They were doing pretty well in their business. Both of them were
Yeah,
millionaires.
I also love I also love living in a cardboard box. Okay,
No, they
I
had
also
a
love living in a card.
they
I'm
had
just kidding around. Like
yeah, they had a like $3.7 million mansion. It was not technically a mansion. It was like a duplex. It was like three
yeah,
bedrooms and four
like a
bedrooms in
million
the
dollar mansions means nothing in California.
yeah.
In
It
LA
actually means nothing.
specifically, it means nothing.
Yeah. So that lady had like 2 kids or 3 kids, and they were paying $600 each for their insurance. $600 insurance for a kid. Can you imagine? I mean, I think
For
there
a
will be a time in
kid.
the for a kid. I mean, there will be a time in the future where people won't be able to afford to have a kid. Imagine. I work at a
And
firm, let's say,
like a teenager or like basically an infant.
an infant. It was like few months old. It was like 20 something months old, like 1.5, 2 years. Yeah. So the thing that is so absurd is, let's say I'm working at a software
America's
firm,
fucked
which
up.
is yeah. Let's say, take this analogy for a second. Let's say I work at a software firm, which is something that I'll probably do in the future as well, because that's kind of like the degree that I'm pursuing at the moment. Maybe my wife sort of like does the same job or has the same economic status, let's call it that way. We are making a decent amount of money. Our salaries are rising every year. We are in like that phase of our life, that part of the career, you can say. We have a kid. Now we have to pay an insane amount of money for insurance, as I mentioned. Probably you also have to pay an insane amount of money for like daycare. Have you heard about those things? You
Babysitting and
drop your
stuff. Yeah.
you drop your kid for 3 hours, pay like $50 an hour, something insane like that. Can you imagine how costly it would be just to have a kid? I'm not talking about buying a bunch of diapers. I'm not talking about milk. I'm not talking about food supplies. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. Not even toys and just the basic stuff. It's just so
Not
like
even basic stuff. I would like include food and stuff into the basics. It's
basic
like
stuff.
additional cost, just the additional cost.
Yeah, just those things that are like you just need them. Like you just can't imagine a life without those, let's say, amenities that a child needs. It would probably be like impossible to have a kid. Like financially speaking, like what if it costs like $3,000 a month to have a kid? In the
I
future,
think again
maybe
that's
it
a
costs
bit
like
much.
$500 where you live
That's a
in the
bit
US.
much.
That's like way too much for the average person. I'm speaking like that's insane. That's insane.
Again,
Most people, yeah,
if my kids eating baby meals made by like I don't know, like Gordon Ramsay every day, maybe $3,000 then is kind of justified. But unless and until that, I don't think like $300 is like a lot. That's
that's an
inconceivable.
insane amount of money. Inconceivable.
Yeah.
That's a Jojo
Like
reference, by
if
the
his
way.
diaper is made out of gold, Maybe. That's a lot of money. 300,000 for a kid a month is
300. I
man
didn't say
inconceivable.
300,000. I said 3,000.
Oh, I thought 300,000. I'm like,
No,
what the
I
fuck
said
are you
$3,000
mentioning?
a month. Three thousand
Yeah, three
dollars a
thousand
month.
dollars is like it's reason. That's reasonable, I would say.
That's insane to me.
In
That's
LA, like
insane to
in
me.
America, of course,
No,
that's
that's insane. Like,
reasonable.
think about it. 3 times 12 is 36. You're spending almost $40,000 a month on a kid. That is insane. How can you spend 40? I have two kids. Let's say $80,000. Best $50,000 spending on two kids. That's still a lot of money. Like, that's a lot of money to be spent on kids.
God damn.
I'm not so sure about it. If the healthcare stuff is rigged, I think it's rigged already. What do you think? I think it's rigged already. Like, people say things can go bad.
Healthcare in
Dude,
America.
it's the worst. It's the worst that
Again,
we have
like
ever had.
healthcare is something that should be like covered. Pay, like okay, like think about stuff like electricity and
Uh
water.
huh. Yeah.
In America, it's reasonably priced, but healthcare, you would think like stuff like everything that's like basic and amenity in any other country,
Yeah.
uh, like stuff like electricity and just mentioned electricity and water is reasonably priced even in America.
Uh
But
huh.
healthcare is like the healthcare industry went, oh, stack it up. It, it doesn't reasonably make sense. Like, where's the money going? That's what I want to know. I want an audit. Where's the money going?
Yeah, exactly. I don't understand it either. So I think we have been filming for like an hour 26
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah,
An hour
way more than we
27
should
almost.
have.
Ideally, this podcast should be about an hour or so.
Yep.
I think this is a pretty interesting conversation. At least to me, it feels like it. Maybe because it's like 10:30 at night. Even more than that.
Yeah, I
It's like
think
10:33.
yeah, I think it's pretty low hanging fruit if you ask me. Like talking about American healthcare system, it's pretty low hanging fruit.
And also, personally speaking, like talking at night. Remember the days when we used to like sit on Discord and like just talk a bunch of random shit, like for no reason,
Yeah, time time went
just flies
real
by.
fast back then. No,
Yeah,
again, it flies by. So even when we are recording a podcast, okay, we are
uh-huh.
a little more aware, because we need to like glance over the
And
time so that we don't
yeah,
go overboard. But
over and we also
back
sort of like
then,
have to maintain a flow
if we
and
don't have that
continuity.
limitation, it's free for all basically. We had
Yeah,
conversations where yeah, okay, we are like, God damn it, by the. I think that's a pretty good point to end this episode. I think even the gods don't want us to continue the episode. So I think that will be a bye.
electricity can go off. Touch wood, it shouldn't, and it hasn't
Yeah,
in
I
the
think you're
past.
jinxing it.